partners from the City of Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, and the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. Tonight we'll hear about what planning really means and how we plan regionally and comprehensively, what projects are on the horizon for Envision Lehigh Valley as well. Questions will be posed to our panelists and then to our audience members. I will assist in facilitating the conversation and sharing our audience's comments and questions tonight. So to interact with our panelists, you may comment in the Facebook box below the video. You can tweet with the hashtag EnvisionTheLV, or just type into the chat box. Any questions or comments that are not directly addressed tonight on the live feed will be addressed by staff members in the next day or so. So the Lehigh Valley is projected to continue to grow by another 145,000 people by 2030, according to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. They will go into much more detail about these population projections and their anticipated impact on the Lehigh Valley. Such growth will put additional strain on housing, employment, land use, infrastructure within the region. A group of public and nonprofit partners felt it was imperative to address this growth through a regional sustainability plan for the region's future. These partners include the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, the Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation, Renew Lehigh Valley, Buy Fresh Buy Local, Nurture Nature Center, the Wildlands Conservancy, LANTA, and the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce, the City of Allentown, the City of Bethlehem, the City of Easton, and the counties of Northampton and Lehigh. Thus, these partners came together to apply for and received a 3-year grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as Envision Lehigh Valley. Envision Lehigh Valley is a public outreach effort designed to engage the citizens of Northampton and Lehigh counties to create a truly sustainable Lehigh Valley. We received a 3-year, $3.4 million grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This project began in early 2012 and will conclude in 2014. And this project will focus on 6 main areas of planning, including affordable housing, fresh food access, jobs, housing balance, regional economic development, climate and energy efficiency, and 3 core projects in each of the 3 main cities. So welcome tonight, and we look forward to discussing with our panelists. First, to introduce myself, I'm Rachel Bradshaw, Director of Renew Lehigh Valley. And now to our panelists. To Mike.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. My name is Mike Kaiser. I'm Executive Director of the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. Our job is to plan for whatever's going to happen over the next 30 years. And we go out to 2040, and we have interim projections to 2020 and 2030. But we work for the 2 counties, Lehigh and Northampton counties, and the municipalities in the area. The next 30 years are going to be continued, is going to be a continued time of growth in the area, and we create plans to deal with growth and hopefully to get the kind of growth that we want to get that serves the goals and objectives of people living in the area. So we create what we call a comprehensive plan to do that, and the last plan developed in the valley was enacted by the 2 counties in the year 2005. So I'll give you a couple statistics here to give you some idea of where growth is going. First, population growth in the area. We figure the population will grow from 647,000 in 2010 to 874,000 by the year 2040. That's roughly about 226,700 people. Compared to the preceding 30 years, we grew 30%, and we're going to grow 35% in the coming 30 years. So growth is accelerating in the area. We also project a 38% increase in employment in the area. That's a change of about 131,000 new jobs. Now, I think the question is, where's all this growth coming from? Well, some of it's coming from natural increase, births over deaths, but I think a lot of people in the Lehigh Valley realize that the growth is also coming to a great degree from New Jersey and the New York metropolitan area, and a lot of our new residents of the area have come from that area. Now, map number 2 that you see in front of you shows something about how that growth is going to be distributed in the area. It's a map of local municipalities, and the period from 2000 to 2010 was kind of an interesting period compared to the preceding 30 years because it showed significant increases in population in the three cities. And we think that's going to continue into the coming years. Mostly the cities had lost population during that period of time, and due to initiatives in the cities to improve the environments, due to demographics, due to affordable housing, and a whole variety of factors, we think the cities are going to be coming back. The dark brown area in the center there is Allentown, and then we've also had population growth in the suburbs to the west of Allentown and upper and lower Macungie Township. We've had population growth in Bethlehem and Easton. Most of the growth in Northampton County will be in the tan areas that are shown on the map. When you look at the employment growth in the area, it follows sort of the same pattern. The dark brown area is Allentown. Bethlehem in orange over in Northampton County is going to be show employment growth, has a lot of areas to accommodate employment growth in the coming years, as does Allentown and also Easton. So we're looking at significant change both in population and in employment, and we've created a comprehensive plan to deal with that. And our comprehensive plan currently goes out to 2030, but we've updated our forecast to take the plan out to 2040. We'll be doing a lot of work on that in the coming years. But the comprehensive plan itself deals broadly with four topics. One is open space preservation in the area. Secondly, community renewal, the redevelopment of properties that have been previously used by business and industry. And we've got the development of industry in the Lehigh Valley goes back to the late 18th century. So we've got a couple centuries worth of development and growth in the area that is still here. Some of it, the land that's out there represents how the development was in the past, and the problem becomes how do you put all that land back to productive use, and that's what the cities are going to be talking about to some degree. We also need to improve infrastructure. We talk about infrastructure, we mean highways and transit, sewer and water facilities and the like. And we're also talking about orderly growth and not random growth, that we attempt to relate all these infrastructure facilities and parks and open space to where people live in the area. The next slide that I have indicates we've got 2 counties, 62 local municipalities, and 725 square miles, and we show the population and employment forecasts. And New Jersey migration is a key factor in that growth. And for the last 10 years, nearly 100% of the growth in Northampton County has come from New Jersey and about 80% in Lehigh County, according to our records. We're transitioning from urban to rural, or rural to urban by using about 4 square miles a year. Now that's diminished to some degree in the last couple of years because we've been in a period of recession, but it'll come back and showing signs of that now. And that means sometime in the next 30 years we'll probably consume about 120 square miles of land. We've done public opinion surveys in the Lehigh Valley over the years to try and figure out what people think about are the important things that you should be talking about when you're creating comprehensive plans. And that showed in the slide that is labeled major public issues. And I don't think these issues are going to surprise too many people. 3 top issues are congestion, and when people think about congestion, I think mostly they think about Route 22. I know I do because I use it every day of the week. They're concerned about crime in the area. They're concerned about too much development and urban sprawl, and of course that's a topic that we hope to deal with, but it's a very difficult topic to deal with. The management of land at the public level is not easy to do. People in the Lehigh Valley like being close to green land and green open space, and they bring that up time and time again in all of our surveys, and preservation of natural resources and farmland and redevelopment of old industrial sites, improvement of Route 22 and the expansion of transit are all big issues by the public, and that's why we're addressing them. The next map is a colorful map, which is probably hard to read for you looking at TV, but you'll see in the center area there's a long stretch. If you go to the right side of the map, Easton is at the edge of the Delaware River, and to the left side we've got the Berks County boundary, and then we've got a big yellow streak across there, and that's yellow represents residential, and the reds represent industrial uses, and then all those lavender colors are from cement quarries and slate quarries in the past. So we have a fairly concentrated east-west orientation of development in the area that follows routes 22 and I-78. That'll come out further as we go through the maps. When we started our comprehensive planning thought, because of the public interest in open space, we decided the best place to start this planning would be to look at the places we think ought to be conserved and preserved for open space. And the map called Natural Resources Plan, the darker green areas show the places that have got the most urban rural characteristics that fit into an open space program. They include Blue Mountain to the north and the Highlands area to the south, and a lot of the stream valleys in the two county areas, which are the long, irregular green strips that you can see. So that's where we started our comprehensive plan. Then the next map, called the Composite Natural Resource Parks and Open Space Map, shows what we've achieved. And a lot of the purple areas shown there are existing public parks. There are a lot of them in the two-county area. The area on the northern boundary of the area is the state game lands, and then we've got the yellow blotches show areas that have been preserved by the counties through their open space conservation easement program, and they've got about 33,000 acres of land in that program in the two counties. The next map shows where we have public sewer service areas in the area. Public sewer is very important, and you'll see at the next map, our land use plan map, how the availability of public sewer, public water, and other things influence the urban growth areas and indicate where we should be promoting urban growth. And we're looking for higher densities than we've seen in the past. And then we see farmland and natural open space surrounding that. So this is the basis of our land use plan for the future, and it accounts for lots of different types of land uses within those general blobs. We also have a lot of smaller communities in the area that came about as a result of early slate quarrying and cement quarrying in the area. And finally, to wrap it up here, land use is not the only issue that we deal with in our planning efforts in the Lehigh Valley. There are many more issues. I've mentioned a few of them already, but we've done stormwater management in the area. We have a geographic information system. And now, as we get into the current program that others on the panel will be talking about, we'll be doing more work on affordable housing. We're going to be trying to do some work that interconnects us with climate issues in other parts of in the world, and also efficient use of utilities and the like. So we cover a lot of different categories, and in our work, we've been in existence for 50 years, since 1961-62, and we expect to be working with other communities as we go forward from this point onward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike. There's going to be a lot more coming out of the Planning Commission over the next year and a half, so certainly stay tuned. I do want to introduce our other three panelists here. Darlene, why don't you start?
I'm Darlene Heller. I'm the Planning and Zoning Director for the City of Bethlehem.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mike Heffley. I'm the Planning Director for the City of Allentown.
Hi, I'm Becky Bradley. I'm the Planning and Codes Director for the City of Easton.
Thank you so much for being here. I do want, before we get into each of the specific cities, I do want to ask a question from one of our audience members to the entire panel. What exactly do you mean by creating a regional sustainability plan? We heard a little bit about the comprehensive plan, but from each of your perspectives, what does it really mean to create a regional sustainability plan?
In my opinion, I think what we want to do is take a look at the components of the valley that we want to prioritize, and we want to make sure that they're there for future generations. That, you know, when the 30-year plan wraps up, we want to make sure that we still have open space, that we still have quality neighborhoods, interesting downtowns, and good jobs here. And I think that's what a sustainable plan does for us.
I think Darlene's hit on the major target topics of the sustainability program, and I don't think they're unusual or uncommon for planners and the public to think about.
Yeah, it's really, I think, all about how you grow as a region and even as individual municipalities without necessarily taking away or hurting the future residents that will live in the valley.
Sure, and tying those economic development needs with our existing infrastructure needs and how to kind of bring those things together with jobs and housing and all of those things is really what is going to make us viable over the long term and able to accommodate those new populations that are moving here.
And our efforts don't just focus on land conservation and conservation of resources. They also pay attention to the need to create jobs and work for people who reside here and prosperity for people who live in the area. So that's a big piece of the issue also.
Right.
And that's all people, people of various income categories, educational backgrounds, and the like.
Great, thank you so much. And certainly, as these questions arise, audience members, please feel free to chat them, tweet them, and post them on Facebook. But I do want to turn the discussion over to Mike Heffley now to talk a little bit about the City of Allentown, to speak more about the specific project there. Mike, can you tell us a little bit more about what the City of Allentown's project is specifically within Envision Lehigh Valley and how the city is working with some of the other partners in this consortium?
Sure. Thanks, Rachel. Just as Mike mentioned and spoke about the regional comprehensive plan and the various elements and topics that deals with, the cities, each one of us, and I'm sure we'll each talk about this tonight, we each have our own adopted comprehensive plans as well. They obviously look much different from a regional plan or even from a suburban plan, where urban comprehensive plans typically develop strategies on how to improve the quality of life in the urban areas. And one of the themes that we typically use is how we grow from within. Cities such as Allentown are pretty much fully developed. There's probably only 4 or 5% of our land area that's undeveloped, and most of that is probably unusable at this point. So we really need to find ways to generate growth in existing conditions and existing situations. One of the tools that we've used in our comprehensive plan is to identify what we refer to as strategic planning areas. And these are areas throughout the city where we've identified that some form of economic growth or redevelopment can and should occur. And in many cases, it calls for additional extra steps or additional planning to occur for these areas. And I'm glad to say that we've been successful in initiating programs in many of these strategic planning areas. The American Parkway bridge connection is under construction, and that was a key point in our comprehensive plan. Certainly the activities that are going on in the downtown area and along our waterfront have been well documented in the newspaper. We continue to work on efforts to improve some of our smaller commercial corridors. But the one area that we've chosen to focus on with the Regional Sustainability Planning Grant is what we refer to as the Little Lehigh Creek Industrial Corridor. This is an area, and I believe we have a map that we can put on the screen of the study area. This is an area that essentially runs through the center of the city and is bordered on 2 sides by some of the city's more heavily populated areas. And these are residents that are in need of job opportunities that are close by, opportunities to walk to work and take public transportation to work. And also within this corridor is a development of our own greenway, much like Bethlehem's established on their south side. This will be the locus of a new trail and network that bisects the city. So our project is essentially broken down into 3 phases. First of all, we've seen a need to create additional industrial job opportunities within the city itself. You know, we realize that the days of the large manufacturers are gone. We're certainly not going to see another Mack Trucks or a Bethlehem Steel for that matter. But we think there are plenty of opportunities for small and mid-sized firms to locate in the region's urban areas and provide needed employment opportunities for residents that are close by and those that really have trouble accessing many of the suburban employment centers. Through the first phase of our project, we'll be looking at that and identifying those opportunities and developing strategies that we would market the area for industrial firms and also seek to enhance the training opportunities for city residents to make sure that there's a good match between employment and employees in the city. The second phase of the project then would take what we learned with that overall strategy and begin to apply it to the Lehigh corridor. We think there's opportunities for some industrial growth there. In fact, there's a parcel that our Industrial Development Authority has recently acquired, a 17-acre former industrial site, which will be one of the key sites that are targeted through our study for additional analysis. And that really makes up the third phase of our project, where we take a site like that and perhaps another and develop a specific reuse plan where we can begin to market the site for reuse. We look forward to partnerships throughout the region as we pursue our plans. We're active participants on the consortium for the Sustainability Planning Grant. We certainly have our own local economic development corporation and other agencies that we work with, but we look forward to future work with the Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation, the WIB, the Lehigh Carbon Community College, and other agencies that are dedicated to increasing employment opportunities in the region.
Great, thanks so much, Mike. Can you just talk, you touched on it a little bit, but can you also then talk about what impact you see specifically in Allentown, given what Mike Kaiser had mentioned in terms of the population projections and the employment projections? How is that going to tie into the city project?
Well, Mike, I think, will be talking a little while about some regional employment forecasts, and it's good news for cities because it, in addition to population growth, it's also projecting additional employment opportunities in the city. And I think our project is really to make sure that we target those opportunities to those that have the most benefit for city residents, those that pay living wages and are able to support families and take care of some of the social and housing issues that exist in the city.
Thank you so much. And certainly, as the audience has questions about Allentown, please feel free to type them in and we can pass them along later in tonight's program. But I do want to shoot it back over to Darlene from the City of Bethlehem. And for Darlene, what is the City of Bethlehem's project within Envision Lehigh Valley, and how is the city working within this Envision Lehigh Valley project?
Thank you, Rachel. This project really is a great opportunity for us to move forward with an area of planning that we've been really working on for many years. I think it's interesting that each of the cities has some of the same issues and concerns, some of the same opportunities, but because we're each so unique, we address them in different ways. And in Bethlehem, we have the Bethlehem Steel site, which is really 20% of the city's land mass. It's abuts many of our neighborhoods and the south side downtown, and it's really put the city in quite a bit of transition over the last 10 or 20 years. There's been a lot of development that's occurred on the site already, but there's still a lot more to come. And the area that we're targeting with the Envision program is what we call the Eastern Gateway. It sits to the east of our south side, and it's really, obviously it's named the Eastern Gateway because it sits at the gateway as you enter the south side. There's a lot of work happening on Route 412 now. It's going to be the new gateway to the south side as it leads you to the Commerce Center and Beth Works areas of Bethlehem Steel site. And what we really want to make sure is that the neighborhoods that exist now continue to be integrated with all of that's happening at the steel site. One thing that Mike talked about is having our residents be able to walk to work, and that's really the scenario that existed when Bethlehem Steel was in its heyday. Many of our South Side residents worked at the steel and they could walk to work, and it's a great scenario that we would like to duplicate as new businesses come and redevelop at the steel site. We have some examples now. The Sands Casino is successful, LVIP 7 is there, and new jobs are being created there. But we really need to work on building those connections. So that's one thing that we're looking at. The slide that you had in front of you really kind of shows the Eastern Gateway as it's located in South Bethlehem, abutting our residential areas in yellow. The area that's marked in pink is arts and entertainment. It's really the Beth Works site where we have now the Steel Stacks campus and the Sands Casino complex. In purple is the area of the steel site that will still remain manufacturing and warehousing, light industry. and we have seen new businesses come in there already. And then we have open space abutting that to the south. We've spent a lot of time in recent years working on the Greenway and the Skate Plaza. Those are both located in the Eastern Gateway community as well. So there's a few components that the plan that we are working on now. One is to create a sense of place there. As you enter 412, basically all the signs take you to Beth Works or the Bethlehem Steel site. And there's a whole neighborhood there that's very lively. It's got a lot of great housing. There's a lot of great opportunity for infill development and redevelopment. And we really want to create a sense of place there. So that's one thing, is the sense of place and a gateway entrance. We also want to look at creating some pedestrian connections between these neighborhoods and the steel site. They're really divided now by Route 412. It's a pretty significant divide. And we want to make that connection a lot easier for people that can walk to work. Some of the other things that we're looking at are creating better connections between the neighborhoods and some of the other new amenities that are being developed. The Greenway, the Skate Plaza, the Beth Works site, and opening up the Bethlehem Steel site to the neighborhoods. We see a lot of transition in our population too. We see some opportunities for growth. Because we have a lot of vacant parcels now that have been abandoned, there's a lot of opportunity for infill development, and we're hoping that a significant amount of that will be residential infill. We think the demand is there, and we think it's a great opportunity for the south side to continue to grow. So that's a variety of the things that we're looking at in Eastern Gateway, and we're just starting now to take a look at some of these issues. We're going to be having a public meeting sometime this summer, maybe in June, and we've usually got pretty good attendance from public meetings that we have on these issues, so we hope that'll continue.
Wonderful, Darlene. And can you speak a little bit more to what types of questions you will be asking the public then as you are having these meetings? How can they be participating in this plan, and how are you communicating with them?
Well, actually, we did a vision study in this area, a broad visioning study that finished up in 2011. And at that time, we did ask a lot of questions, and we got a lot of good input about the major issues that the residents have with the neighborhood. Not being necessarily pedestrian friendly was one of the main concerns, and being able to tap into some of the new opportunities was also an issue and a concern. So we feel like we've laid out some of the basic questions, and really in these next phases, we're hoping to come back to those same residents with some of our suggestions for solutions. So we hope we're moving in the right direction. I think that we are. We've been working in the area for a few years now, and we're closing in on some design that would allow us to actually make some improvements.
Great. We look forward to hearing more about those public meetings this summer, and we will certainly keep you updated through Envision Lehigh Valley and the City of Bethlehem. Thanks, Darlene. Now I do want to turn over to Becky Bradley, the planner from Easton, to speak a little bit about the City of Easton's project within Envision Lehigh Valley. And Becky, I understand there's a couple different facets to this project. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, we've actually divided our project up into two. The first thing that we're doing is we're rewriting the city comprehensive plan, which was last rewritten in 1997. And then we're also going to be working on the 13th Street corridor, which is a gateway into the city of Easton from the west. And it actually takes more cars than any other road in the city of Easton. A lot of commuter traffic, a lot of neighborhood traffic. So we want to utilize our comprehensive plan, the urban design pieces of that, to work through some job supportive efforts there as well. Back to the comprehensive plan though, we decided back in about 2005 that we needed to create a better regulatory environment to kind of support the revitalization that was going on in our community. So we adopted a local historic district ordinance and formed a committee which expanded out to 38 members of the community to start to rewrite our planning and zoning code. And what that did was it basically opened up uses, zoning uses, what you can and can't do on a lot in the city of Easton, to a variety of new things. Craft industrial, all sorts of mixed uses that for some reason were not allowed before, though traditionally had been allowed in the city. So utilizing that kind of strategy, we were able to really set in motion a lot of revitalization in the community. Now we're to the point, several years later, about 7, 8 years later, since that process happened, that we need to figure out what the next steps are and how to sustain that revitalization. So rewriting our comprehensive plan is key to that. So far, we've spoken to about 600 people since January throughout the community, utilizing any organization that would be kind enough to speak to us in individual interviews with everything from our public utilities to the cable company to our neighborhood groups. And in fact, this evening, there is a meeting going on right now in our West Ward neighborhood to talk about what they would like to guide their future prosperity and address the changes that they would like to make in their neighborhood as part of the planning effort. By and large, we've really kind of set a tone through that planning and zoning code rewrite process that any project in the city of Easton would be planned. Therefore, it would be integrated into our existing fabric to be consistent and maintain a quality that would allow for sustainability. We've had this policy really on the books since 2008, and that's served in a lot of ways to encourage the about $500 million of investment we've had in our 4 square mile community. The comprehensive plan effort will address very similar things to what the other planners were talking about, everything from vacancy to housing to utility needs to redevelopment, similar to Allentown. I like to say we're at 100% build out, so anything that we do build or do reuse really requires kind of a surgeon's eye, since we're dealing with a heavily dense community at over 6,100 persons per acre to kind of revitalize our community and make sure that all of those things kind of build on each other and really tie together. So we just kind of have a motto that if you don't plan, you plan to kind of fail. And from that, we've really started to address this more global effort and that sustained revitalization in the community.
Wonderful. Can you speak a little bit about how the city's comprehensive plan then will tie into the Lehigh Valley comprehensive plan?
Yes, absolutely. One of our big goals is that whatever we do, that it would be consistent with the regional planning efforts. There's a million logical reasons for that to happen. Everything from highway access on Route 78, on Route 22 and Interstate 78 and how that affects our tourism, arts and culture community, to making sure that we're kind of keeping with the development pattern and uses and relationships with our neighbors. And all of that coordination really does reduce costs to the taxpayers over time, reduces redundancies, and really provides for a better and improved community overall.
Wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to highlight about Easton's project over the next year and a half or so with Envision Lehigh Valley?
Sure. We're hoping to move into that 13th Street kind of urban design phase as we continue to grow the project. And I have some slides that show a community on a state highway anywhere. And it kind of shows a typical highway commercial building that you would see. Not a very pedestrian-friendly or transit-friendly environment, pretty much built for the automobile, with the exception of having the buildings close to the road. In the next slide, you'll see that when you start to add sidewalks, better street trees, improved traffic signalization, that you can start to accommodate, more than one category of transportation, so people and bikes start to be more welcome and feel more safe in that environment. And then this third slide shows how that actually adds value to the land around that transit investment, and that what we call transit equity model. We'll be growing our 13th Street project into something very similar we'll be reconnecting our West War neighborhood with our College Hill neighborhood and allowing that to support the revitalization of this former Simone Silk Mill, tie into the Carlston Arch Trail, which ties into the regional trail network, provide access to jobs, better quality housing, and those sorts of things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I do have some questions from our audience that I do want to pose to our panelists in general. We have a question here. What will the impact of Envision Lehigh Valley's regional plans be on the Lehigh Valley, whether you're in a city, a township, or a borough? Regionally, could you speak a little bit to what some of our residents may see by 2014 or beyond that end of the grant? Anyone on the panel?
Well, I think that by the year 2014 is a little early. Planners are accustomed to thinking in longer periods of time than 1 year or so. But certainly from a longer term perspective, we hope that we can make a dent in providing more affordable housing in the area. The housing situation that's evolved over the last 50 years has been extraordinarily complicated. A lot of higher quality housing spread across the landscape, but if you're poor and if you need housing, it's hard sometimes to find decent housing in the area. So I'm hopeful that we can achieve that. And then we have another effort that we have underway that's attempting to balance out where jobs are located and where people who need jobs live. And if you don't have a car, you have a tough time getting a job sometimes in the Lehigh Valley, even with Lanta. And Lanta is doing a terrific job of trying to connect people with jobs, but we're hoping that we can balance that out a little bit better so that we get some good jobs closer to the people where the people live who badly need them. And then we have a couple other things that we're trying to connect with here in terms of fresh food access. That's another priority in the program, and that's the idea of providing fresh vegetables and fruit close to where people live. And again, it's a situation where if you have an automobile, you can find a lot of fresh foods, but if you're living in certain areas, they're not necessarily fresh food facilities nearby. So those are a couple of things that we hope that we can achieve as a result of this particular study.
I think in our case, we've done some of the visioning, the long range look, and I think maybe what we're doing now is maybe the next step of that. We are doing a little bit of design and engineering. We are doing some market analysis and some feasibility studies to try to figure out where the gaps are in the types of uses that we have in South Bethlehem. We should be able to see some product not too long after 2014 anyway, I hope, because ours really isn't a long-range plan like Mike is talking about for the region. We'll probably see some physical improvement, and I think one of the first things that we want to work on really is the walkability and creating some kind of a sense of place as you enter the neighborhood.
Yeah, pretty much like Darlene said, obviously our planning effort under the grant has a much shorter term to it. We look for change almost immediately, or at least to begin implementation of the plan after it's completed over the next 9 or 10 months. I think our interest in the sustainability effort in general is that a well-planned region benefits everyone. It cuts down on wasted land. It cuts down on non-economical public expenditures that are necessary to support unplanned growth. So to the extent that all of the different elements that are being worked on under the consortium create a better whole or a better valley, I think we're all for that.
Sure. And in Easton, I think ours kind of bridges what Allentown and Bethlehem are doing, where we do have some design and development on the 13th Street corridor, but we have a more of a long-range goal with a comprehensive plan piece, as Mr. Kaiser had talked about. And again, I just think that it's critical to the overall success of not just the city of Easton, but everyone who travels and comes to Easton, that we have a well-planned city that's functional and efficient and has sustainable infrastructure that accommodates everyone, those pedestrians, cyclists, buses, trains, bikes, the whole nine. In the next year, we'll be well along the way of kind of re-envisioning that 13th Street area to make that more functional.
Great. I do have a question here from our audience. They would like to know from the three panelists from the cities, exactly how did you choose the specific projects that you're dealing with under Envision Lehigh Valley? Because we know there are a lot of issues that you could cover in each of the three cities. So how did you specifically choose these ones?
Well, it's a good question because, you know, we are working on a lot of different neighborhoods, and there are certainly targeted areas. But in South Bethlehem, we've been concentrating much of our effort because it is the area in most transition. And our concern really was that the neighborhoods that exist now would not be left behind, that they would be able to benefit from all the growth and success that we've been seeing on the Bethlehem Steel site. We did our first master plan in 2000, a Southside Master Plan for the downtown core area, and we followed that up with what we called Southside Vision, was a plan that we did in conjunction with the Community Action Development Corporation of Bethlehem. They've been our partner for the last 10 or 12 years on our Southside planning, and we just completed the vision study on the Eastern Gateway in particular. And it's an area that had been called out as a priority in 2002 even. And so we've been taking a close look at things there and working in that neighborhood for quite some time. And we really feel like we have good partners there to work with. And that's important. In order for any plan to be successful, we need good partners. And we've been working with Lehigh Valley Industrial Parks, who own a good chunk of the land at the steel site, basically right across the street at 412. Sands Casino is right across the street also. Arts Quest, not too far away. Those are all great job opportunities. We have people from those organizations sitting on our committee. We meet monthly. So they've been wonderful participants. So we need to work in areas and concentrate our efforts where we have good partners to work with too. So there were a few factors that led us to the Eastern Gateway.
Great.
Yeah, I had mentioned in my opening remarks, I referred to the strategic planning areas that we identified in our comprehensive plan. And when you look at the multi-pronged approach that the city has been taking in its revitalization efforts, I think we're pretty pleased with what's happening in the downtown area. Certainly there's been a lot of attention and focus spent on that. We've recently completed a master planning study for the Lehigh River waterfront. That's beginning to bear fruit with various development proposals for some former brownfield site and even the former New Isle Brewery, which we're very pleased about. We've always had a long-standing relationship and working with our neighborhood partners throughout the city. And one need that we identified when we had done some internal strategic planning several years ago was the need for an industrial development strategy, that we felt that we just needed to pay a little bit more attention to bringing better paying jobs, again, into the city, into areas where they would be mostly accessible to city employees and help to build up our income base throughout the city. And that's really how ours came about. We just think one of the basic tenets of sustainability is having jobs located closer to where people live.
For us, the comprehensive plan piece was very easy because that obviously helps set the development direction and create a plan for future growth for the whole city. As far as the 13th Street corridor piece, that actually there's a number of reasons why that was chosen. First of all, we have been working with a number of partners on what's called the Bushkill Creek corridor now since 2004, 2005. And that's a partnership between Lafayette College, the City of Easton, and the Easton Redevelopment Authority, and that now includes VM Development Group. But that's really a three-phase project. Lafayette College has been working very diligently on their piece, which is the 3rd Street kind of gateway into the city of Easton. We built the Carl Sterner Arts Trail in keeping with the regional greenways plan and basically protected over 20 acres of flood-prone lands from future development and created over 2 miles of new urban trail. And then that connects into the former Simone Silk Mill, which is being spearheaded by the Redevelopment Authority in partnership with BM Development Group. That was a site that was vacant for years and years. It's a 14-acre, 14-building site that's now being redeveloped as a creative community, including mixed use, housing, arts, cultural sorts of activities. In fact, it's going to Planning Commission for final approval this Wednesday. But that development would then tie in with the end of the trail to our West Ward, which is the neighborhood to the south of the Silk Mill and trail sites, which does not have a pedestrian connection now and a very poor vehicle connection. So for us, it's our second main gateway off of 22 as well, vehicular gateway. It was very easy to choose.
Thank you for that insight. I appreciate it. I think our audience appreciates it too. I do have another question here from one of our audience members. They want to know, does this program, Envision Lehigh Valley, deal at all with transportation planning? And if not, why not? Can any of the panelists explain? I know we didn't list it in here, but I do believe it does factor in. Can one of you explain that a little bit?
It doesn't deal strongly with transportation planning because we have other federal programs that are already funding transportation planning, both at the transit level and also the highway level. So this is not an emphasis of the program, but there are certainly some connections that can be made in topics within the program, particularly with respect to the jobs housing balance. It requires strong transit service to make the connections between people, poor people who need jobs, and getting them to the jobs that are out there, and that's a function of LANTA that they're exercising very well. Then there's also a regional economic development component of this, and in order to have sound economic development, you have to have a transportation system that can support economic growth in the area, both from the perspective of automobiles moving people around, but also freight movements. And in that connection, we're going to be beginning a freight study for the two-county area in the not-too-distant future. The first time that's ever been done. And it's a study that will focus on the movement not only of people, but mainly on the movement of goods through the Lehigh Valley and the connections between our transportation system and the location of warehouses and that kind of thing in the valley. So there are a number of connections that are there. You have to reach a little bit to make them, but they're there, and they're important connections.
Maybe I just would mention, too, though, that LANTA is a partner on this project. They're a part of the committee, and they have been doing their own long-range planning, actually, bus rapid transit study that they've been doing, and they tie that to land use, and noting that unless there's denser development in core areas of the Lehigh Valley, we're really not going to have a more successful transit system. And really they've been working on trying to make the system more efficient and more practical for people to use. So they are a part of the discussion.
And that's a key deliverable too for LANTA, is that tying those transit land use connections piece into this whole effort.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I do want to give an opportunity to our panelists before we conclude. Do you have any other comments or information that you'd like to share before we finish? We sign off with our audience. Are there any other pieces of your projects that you'd like to share, or something about comprehensive planning that you'd really like to share with our audience before we finish tonight?
I think an observation we could make here has to do with employment in the area, and in the last 10 years we've seen a major adjustment and change in the nature of jobs in the Lehigh Valley. The Lehigh Valley has lost 19,000 manufacturing jobs since 2000. And the big hope that we're able to gain some of them back in the coming years. But the big growth industries in the Lehigh Valley are mostly related to healthcare these days, and also to the management of companies and the like, and food services. So we've had a major change in the economy of the Lehigh Valley, and it's paralleled by major changes in the employment base nationally too. And I think that's part of the complexities of the economy that we're learning to grapple with. And it's thankfully we've got LVEDC to pay attention to that.
Do our other panelists in the cities see some of those factors coming to light in their individual cities as well?
Well, we have additional opportunities for infill for new employment. We're seeing certainly a lot of healthcare development in the city. It's one of the things that has been more common land developments that we've seen recently. I don't know that I have anything additional to add necessarily about our project, but I did want to say one thing just about public input and participation. This is, to my knowledge, one of the first times we've ever tried anything like this, a virtual meeting. And we have some meetings coming up in Bethlehem, and I know that the other communities do too. I really hope that this continues to sort of grow the interest in the projects. We love to see people come out to our meetings. We want to hear good questions. We want to interact with the public. And so if this is helping us to build on that, I think it's a very good thing. So hopefully people will continue to watch the website and look for other announcements, and we'll be able to continue to interact and talk.
Absolutely, Darlene. Thank you. Mike or Becky, do you have anything else to add to the conversation before we sign off?
Yeah, I think, from our perspective, sitting here as city planners, maybe we're biased, but I really think that we see cities becoming relevant again. I think we're all kind of feeling that, and we're experiencing that. And I think a lot of the work that we want to do under this grant, and a lot of the other initiatives that we do with or without this grant, I think are really beginning to bear fruit. And someone said that the last decade was the decade of the cities, and I think it really has laid a foundation, and I think that trend is really going to continue, and I think everyone just kind of feels that, and I think we're looking forward to that.
I agree, but I think entrepreneurship is really kind of the key to the revitalization, at least of the city of Easton, and I know you guys have seen it in your cities as well. It's a different types of jobs that are coming in now than the traditional jobs that we had seen year over year in the past. A lot of local business, and I think that's just wonderful. It keeps so much more money in our communities, and it really allows us to revitalize and reuse the existing infrastructure and buildings that we have in some new and interesting ways. I just think the most important thing is when you engage in any planning effort that you think as big as you possibly can and not limit yourself, because it may not make sense today, may not make sense in 2 or 3 years, may not even make sense in a decade, but over time it may become more relevant. It may be something that you need to work towards. It may be something that takes that long to achieve, and I think limiting ourselves is the worst possible thing that we can do. And I love to think of a quote by Harry Truman that basically says that if you plan too small, you'll never achieve any real goal.
Wonderful. We always love to hear from Harry Truman.
Love Harry Truman.
We do have one question from an audience member talking about the population profile of the Lehigh Valley. As we are looking at some of the population changes, we see that we will be getting a larger, older population. Can any of our panelists speak to how that growing older population will impact any of these projects or the Lehigh Valley as a whole?
Well, I suppose I'm going to have to comment on that since I are one. I obviously it'll have an impact on housing at some stage of the game. On healthcare, I think a lot of the growth in healthcare is related strongly to the aging of the population. And transportation in the area. So there are a number of important connections that are out there that are going to be affected by an aging population. And I think that that's a fact of life. It's not only a fact of life here, but it's a fact of life nationally, and it's the aging of the baby boom generation, really, and it's coming.
Change certainly is coming. I want to thank our panelists first for taking time out tonight of their busy schedules. We know they have a lot to do, not just with the Envision Lehigh Valley Project, but with a lot of their other work in the cities and throughout the region. So thank you so much, Mike Kaiser, Tharlene Heller, Mike Heffley, and Becky Bradley. And thank you so much to our audience. We had 97 people tune in tonight, which is great. We certainly will look forward to holding more public meetings, whether virtually or in person. We certainly will be recording. We've recorded this video, and it will be posted on Envision Lehigh Valley's YouTube channel. You can search Envision Lehigh Valley. We'll also have the link on our website, www.envisionlehighvalley.com. And we will also be posting further public meetings and updates on these projects as well as our other planning areas on that website. So certainly stay tuned on our website, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can also submit questions on our user voice page on the website. It's a little orange box on the left-hand side where staff will get back to you and answer your questions. Or you can email questions to smartgrowth@renewlv.org. Audience members, if you've been intrigued by any of the discussion tonight or you really want to get involved, we are always looking for volunteers to help with our community outreach efforts. So you can send messages through any of those social media pages or the email smartgrowth@renewlv.org. Our topic-specific meetings, like some of our panelists mentioned, in terms of fresh food access, regional economic development, fair housing, any of these city projects, will be coming down the pipeline later this summer and into the fall of 2013. Remember, we have a lot more coming up throughout 2014 as the grant continues on. So if you would like to stay posted with us, we would love to have you involved in this project as we continue to plan for a regional sustainability plan for the Lehigh Valley. If you have any other questions, please feel free to post them. But for tonight, we'll say good night. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.